Let's reframe work and let's reframe being an employee. What are the elements of being an employee? Well, first, when you're employed somewhere, you need some qualifications. So you had to do some education or some higher education, or you had to have a degree in order to qualify for the position. Then, in order to get that position, you had to apply for the position, and then you probably had an interview, and then you got hired for the position. So there was a moment where you became an employee. The third aspect is that once you're employed, you have a certain sense of structure and you have a certain sense of certainty. You get a contract for a certain amount of time, maybe a contract for the rest of your life. And finally, when you're employed, you usually have a boss, and your boss tells you what to do, or your boss discusses with you what you should do in your yearly review. So there is a sense of hierarchy and there is a sense of tasks that you have. So when you're an employee, you have your qualifications, you have your hiring process, you have your job security, and you have your tasks. Now imagine if we reframe that. What would be the opposite? What would be the opposite of having qualifications? It would be not to have any qualifications, no degree, no stamp from some institution to guarantee that you could do it. Perhaps you should just show us what you could do. Perhaps you should have a portfolio with what you've done. Now, if you're a state-of-the-art computer programmer, then nobody cares where you got your degree because there's probably no university where you could learn to do what you do. People just want to know, could I actually do it? Can you actually do it? Show us that you can do it. So instead of a qualification that you got from some institution, show us that you can do it. The second element, that hiring process, it's a bit strange because you only have to pass that test once. Once you get hired, you become your employer's problem, right? It's their problem whether you work well or not. Imagine if you had to pass this hiring test all the time, every day. You have to continuously prove that you can create value for the organization. So instead of a one-off thing, it's a continuously creating value. Now imagine if you had no job security. We can't guarantee you there's work tomorrow. You have lots of flexibility, but you also have lots of insecurity. And now imagine with this hierarchy and these fixed tasks, what if there is no boss? What if there is no hierarchy? What if there is just co-creation in a network? You work with other people, but nobody really tells you what to do. Now, if you look at that reframe and you take those four elements, show what you can do, continuously create value, be flexible because you never know where you're going to work, and you work in a network and through co-creation, you have defined what an independent professional does. A freelancer, somebody who works for themselves, has these four elements. And it's a very, very different frame than the frame of an employee. Contrast the yellow frame of the employee with the orange frame of the independent professional. And now imagine that you had to suddenly shift from one to the next. Imagine that you've been hired and you've been working for a bank for 20 years and suddenly you get fired and you have to find a way to make your own money and you've become an independent professional. That is the shift that you need to make. It also happens the other way around. People were independent professionals and some company wants to hire them and they have to get used to doing it for a company again. But whatever your situation, realize how different these frames are and ask yourself, would I be happier in the frame of an employee or would I be happier as an independent professional? Do I have what it takes to become an independent professional? The insecurity, the having to prove my value, the having to find my own group of people? Or do I actually have what it takes to be an employee, having bosses and structures and rules all the time?